Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
You bump up to number one when you're riding a 7-game winning streak and you're coming off of that vibe. I mean, who else would the number one team be right now? They have one loss. They've won 7 in a row. And they went to Buffalo and beat the Bills. The number 2 team lost at home to the Bills. How could you not put the Vikings at number 1? Chris, what am I missing? Who would be number 1 right now if not the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard to argue that. You could still argue the Eagles could be 1. You could still argue the Chiefs could be 1 too. You know, again,
How could you? But if the Eagles lost, how do the Eagles lose and stay at number 1? That can't be.
A little more national love. Uh-oh. Put the coffee down and pick the flag up, Todd. Let's go.
How could you not have the Vikings won? Oh, Jerry Seinfeld there from Florio.
Also, I saw some stuff going around Twitter yesterday. So Chris Sims had a take and a half. Yeah. He said, I'm paraphrasing because it's not, I don't have it in front of me. He goes, the Vikings-Bills game, he goes, if you just watch the all-22 film and take out the scoring plays, it looked to me like Buffalo should have won that game by 20 points. Yep. If you just look at the all-22 film without the scoring plays. Mm-hmm. What does that even mean? What do you mean without the scoring plays?
I have no idea. I saw it too. I have no clue.
I
guess that's like saying that the 2009 Vikings in the conference title game, if you take out the Saints scoring plays and the Vikings mistakes, they win by about 25
right.
points.
If you take away the 6 turnovers or whatever.
Then they're going to win.
And also, those happen and they matter. And
I think that idea somewhat, I think, maybe can translate into hockey, Judd. Like, the other team forechecked hard. You take away the scoring plays. They probably should have had more, right? But, I don't think it applies in football at all.
It's weird. So Patrick Peterson studies 30 hours of film or whatever during the week.
Yep.
As he talked about on his podcast, and picks up a tendency in the Bills' route running, and specifically Gabe Davis, and says, oh boy, based on my film study and the entire game that I have played so far, if they run this concept and throw this pass, I'm pretty confident I'm going to pick it off.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And that's not a scoring play, but it's like, it's a swing play. That's not luck,
And I am not a we get no respect type of guy, but I will say this: there seems to be a national philosophy from some. They can't comprehend that the Vikings are 8-1, and so there seems to be a group, a faction, not everybody, who's trying to find ways to work around it. Of it's going to end, and I think the steam going into the Bills game was, well, they're just going to get beat by the Bills pretty soundly, and that's going to prove that they had played a bunch of bad teams. Well, then they beat the Bills, and it's sort of this really weird but great game. And now it's like, okay, how can I find a way to dismiss it again? So, because, this was the perfect storm, in my opinion, of a team that overcame a ton. Again, I am not the officials are screwing us guy, but we now have, 4 plays
the neutral zone.
The neutral zone.
Did you guys see that too?
Yes,
and I am with you. I detest when people. Well, the officials are out to get the. No, they're not. And it wasn't intentional, by the way. It was incompetence.
Yes.
It wasn't like a conspiracy that if the NFL wants to put the Bills in the Super Bowl, they can do it later.
Right.
They can do it in January. It was pure incompetence. So I'm with you on that one. You had the 12 men on the field, total How often does that happen in a goal line situation?
There's a guy counting them. There's an official counting the men on the field. So, but the point is, it's very hard for me to find ways to dismiss this win. Right?
I agree. Yes and no. There's and I should say this is Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. The show is presented by our friends. Well, let's come back to that. All right, was it kind of luck or not thing in a second. State of the offense coming up. The show is presented by our friends at TCL. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed and an AI-powered 50-megapixel triple camera system. It's a lot of megapixels. Ultra-realistic and true-to-life visuals powered by Next Vision and booming sound from the dual speakers. Learn more at TCL.com. And as the Vikings keep racking up wins, I guess we keep racking up photos of people's cans on social media.
And those cans, of course, come from our friends at Surly Brewing. You know, you might be enjoying a Furious, you might be enjoying a Logic Bomb, or you might be enjoying the Before I Die beer, which we all hope is a prophetic beer that even can be retired after 1 year. Is that possible? Well, it appears to be like at least an outside chance of happening. Surly Brewing, though, we will never retire the amount of great beers that come from them. The weekend is coming, college football, Vikings on Sunday against the Cowboys. Make sure that you're well stocked with Surly so you can enjoy the games and also the best beer around.
So, is it lucky that Josh Allen fumbled on the, quarter-inch yard line and the Vikings picked it up for a touchdown? It's largely luck, yes. Now, the Vikings putting themselves in a position to give the ball back to Buffalo that close to the end zone was not luck. The Vikings drove their asses down the field on the Bills, got to the doorstep of the end zone, come back to that in a second too. Mm-hmm. And the Vikings got a huge push off the line of scrimmage to force the Bills, if not fumbling, maybe into a safety. So, yes, ultimately they dropped a football. You picked it up. It was a crazy play. Definitely some luck involved. But let's go back to that fourth down failed conversion, the quarterback sneak for a second. A screenshot came out yesterday. There was 4 Bills players with their helmets clearly in the middle of the neutral zone. So the Bills players were already, this is on the quarter-inch yard line, and the Bills players are already over the football before the ball is snapped. No call, of course. And the referee is actually off-center for some reason, it looks like, on the screenshot.
And you're right, that's incompetence.
So that play should have been run over. It should have been a free play for the Vikings, and they should have run it back again. Yep. So you could say the Bills got kind of lucky not getting flagged on that and not having a touchdown from the doorstep of the end zone. So if the Vikings just sneak the ball in and they win the game that way, is it luck? So I'm with you. I'm not trying to be Homer guy here or anything, but it just feels like the tone and the way people are talking about this, they're putting so much emphasis on the fluke fumble play and not enough on the circumstances in and around it for basically the entire second half and the comeback and then the overtime sequences, And
I think part of this is because of the national media's resistance to move off their thoughts, which at the start of the year this is going to be a rebuilding team that might be okay, but they're certainly not going to be great. There just seems to be a resistance among a large group nationally of this can't be happening. This can't be. And look, of all the sports, football, man, it changes every year.
Yes.
It changes the NFC East was garbage. And now there is not a team under 500. The NFC South has Tom Brady. And now it's not very good. So I think this need in football to be, we've always said when the schedule comes out that as we go through it, by about the time you get to this month, November, there's going to be a group of teams that you expected to be good that aren't. And conversely, like the Vikings, a group of teams that you thought might be okay or not good, and they are good. So the lack of respect thing, I absolutely hate that storyline. But in this case, it's very clear there are a lot of people struggling and it doesn't make sense. And instead of saying what we said yesterday, which was on Kirk, for instance, I was wrong. They're trying to find okay, but they're going to get to this game or that game. I'm now to the point where personally, I'm saying this. It's a fun ride. It's an enjoyable ride. Yeah. I have no idea where the ride ends, but I'm going to follow it and I'm going to enjoy it. These years don't come along every season. And just to assume that now they're going to be on this great trajectory, again, it's football. It's weird. Take the luck that you get with the fact that you're playing well and certain vets are playing out of their minds. And couple that to take the ride as long as it will take you.
Yes. That's advice from the sports dad, having watched, almost 5 decades of Vikings football and other.
In 2010, when I assumed the team was going to be damn good.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into our state of the offense, the meat of this episode. We'll get to a random Viking of the week later on. So I give you guys 4 categories of interest, and we'll do a deep dive into them. But let's start with just the overall snapshot of where this offense ranks in some key big picture categories. points per game, so pure scoring offense, the Vikings are 8th in the NFL, and there's a bunch of teams sort of between 5, 6, 7, 8. They're a half point per game out of a top 5 slot right now. The Seahawks occupy the 5th best offense points per game, which is another kind of shocker. I think people would have been floored to hear that before the season. So 8th in points per game, 16th in yards per play, 12th in expected points added, more of an analytical sort of process-related stat. And same with DVOA, which is Football Outsiders ranking there, 17th. So some of the yardage and process metrics have them 12th, 16th, and 17th. But the results of how many points are you actually scoring, they are the 8th highest scoring offense in the NFL.
And that's the type of thing, too. So we get, I feel like, and this includes us, we get so caught up in the metrics, and there are so many now, right, that speak to things and speak to, okay, this team should win because of this, or they shouldn't win because of that. But you know what? And I feel like that this is true of the stat that you just read, Phil, and it's true of the defensive points allowed stat as well. When it comes to the most important stats, they are, for the most part, solid. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say they're great, but they're solid. And so, like, we could probably, you could probably find 5 stats right now that would lend credence to the Vikings are not that good. But, like, when you look at the most important ones, you start to see this consistency of, okay, they might not convince you totally that they're a great team, but what's the most important thing? Not allowing scores and getting scores.
Yep.
So that's intriguing.
There's a bunch of these categories are all kind of fascinating, and I'm going to give you a Kirk one to start with here. Mm-hmm. So this category is Bizarro Kirk. He ranks 20th in passer rating, and he, I think, going into the season, had one of the 5 or 6 best passer ratings in NFL history. He was on a list with, like, Drew Brees and Tom Brady and some of these guys. Now, some of it's, if you happen to play quarterback in the last 10 or 15 years, it's just you're going to have a higher passer rating because it's way easier to do that now than it was in the 90s or the 70s. Right. In the 70s, I mean, I saw a clip, actually. This is probably from, like, the 50s. I follow a couple of these old football films accounts on Twitter. Do you guys follow some of these?
Oh, yeah.
And every day they're pumping out these old clips. And there was a clip. It was like a leather helmet game from the 50s or something. And it's a muddy field, and the ball is snapped, and a quarterback does a little jump pass, just kind of like both feet, two-handed jump pass over the line of scrimmage.
I've seen that.
And the receiver, I think the receiver even dropped the ball. So he jump passes, lands, watches the play, and probably like 3 seconds after the play, a defensive player comes over and just clubs him over the head and knocks him down and walks back to the huddle.
Yep.
No call.
Yeah. Oh, the 70s are incredible, man. Guys wore stickum. That was the best part. Like, there were defensive backs had stickum. So their hands would be just, globbed up with stuff.
A 2-finger interception?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, man, look at that.
It was like Velcro. It was like the football was Velcro. And then to your point, worst case, if a guy caught a ball, they would lay him out, like helmet to helmet.
That
ball
Jack
would pop
Tatum,
out. Yes.
Chuck Cecil from the 80s.
Lester Hayes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. So, yes, it is easier. It's easier to improve your completion percentage and passer rating out.
So here's what I mean by Bizarro Kirk. So traditionally, he's always putting up big passer rating, right? Big completion percentage, all this stuff. So this year, he also has one of the highest completion percentages in NFL history. So this year, he's 20th in passer rating. He is 19th in completion percentage. He's 23rd in QBR, 17th in EPA, expected points added, and he has the 4th most interceptions of any quarterback in the NFL. If I were to stop there and say, okay, before the season, this is how it's going to go for Kirk. What's the Vikings record going to be after 9 games? How many mathematical attempts would you have to take before you got to 8-1, right?
Yeah, I don't think I could have gotten there, to be honest with you.
It's everything.
I don't know I could have ever landed there.
His stats are just the antithesis of his entire career to this point. But so is the win-loss total, which brings me to the other half of the Bizarro Kirk stats. So the team is 8-1. Kirk leads the NFL with 5 fourth-quarter comebacks, tied with, can you guess?
Oh, he's
tied with someone.
Ooh. Who's been rallying a lot?
Not someone that would be top of
Danny
mind.
Dimes?
You're getting warmer
Gino?
there. It's not someone that we ranked our top 15, or in Judd's case, 11 quarterbacks on Mackey and Judd today. This player did not show up in our rankings.
Oh, okay.
This player got benched, actually. Matt
Ryan
Ryan has 5 fourth-quarter comebacks this year.
Okay, you could have given me all day. I had no idea.
So Kirk leads the NFL with 5 fourth-quarter comebacks. In fourth quarter and overtime, in one-score games, when it's a one-score game in fourth-quarter overtime, he has one of the best passer ratings in the NFL. And his passer rating is 15 points higher in those situations than his overall passer rating.
Yep.
When he's under pressure this season, according to Pro Football Focus, Kirk is tied for 4th in the NFL in big-time throws, which is kind of a subjective thing, but it's like a chunk play, or you're getting smoked and you hit a receiver on the run for a big play. Mm-hmm. He has the 4th most big-time throws under pressure. And also, when under pressure, Kirk has gone from 32nd in the NFL last year in yards per attempt to 11th. He's not amazing under pressure, but he was atrocious under pressure last year, and he's now very much competitive under pressure.
Yep.
So to me, this goes to show you, forget about a lot of the other big picture stats. If you can be great late in games, in close games, and when the defense is pressuring you, if you can be competitive, it's going to make up for a lot of stuff. It's going to swing games because all these games are close anyways, right? So we're seeing you guys are finally giving him the credit that he's. Look at what he's. This is the antithesis. This is the flip-flop version of what we saw in the first 3 years for sure with Kirk Cousins.
So the one stat that you gave that's a negative stat that might have been a tell to success are the picks. Because I was convinced Kirk wouldn't make the throws that get picked. And he has. Now, I get it. The second pick against Buffalo was terrible. The first one wasn't great. It sailed in that case. But you know what? If you go through his picks, we actually could do this. We could put together a collection of the good and bad picks by Kirk. Because the bad picks come to mind. Philadelphia, the one in the front of the end zone towards the corner, that was a bad pick because that pass has to go towards the pylon in the back of the end zone. The one against Chicago that got away from him a little bit. And then I'd say the 2 against Buffalo are certainly both questionable. But you know what? But the pass that he threw to Jefferson, the first pick against Philadelphia, where Justin ran the wrong route, was a good pick. That's a good pass. Mm-hmm. You got to make that pass. Justin screwed up the route, so it didn't work. But I mean, this is the first time that I could actually go through, and I think you can very much, and I'm sure O'Connell does this, you can put his picks into bins. But I think the fact that he has more picks, I think he's at 1 more now than he had all of last season, is absolutely a tell to the fact that they are getting what they want from him in taking some chances, which now leads to more confidence late in games, I think.
I think the weird narrative that's just really honestly frustrating me about Kirk is I've seen it a lot in the last few weeks. Well, hey, statistically, Kirk Cousins a lot better last season. What's the point of bringing up that he was statistically better last season? What would be the end game, and what would be the rhetoric that you're trying to push that, hey, last season he was a lot better? He's winning games. He's clutch in big-time moments. You're paying him a big cap number. You want him to deliver in clutch moments. I guess I don't understand why people would be clutching to the fact of, well, he was even better last season. They're the same team that they were last season, that they've always been with Kirk. This year, it's a different version of Kirk individually and statistically, and it's translating the team success. Why are we getting hung up on 2021 and previous Kirk Cousins statistics?
Well, and I would say, to that point, okay, if I told you his overall numbers are going to be worse, but he's going to take a step forward in a couple really high leverage categories where the game is on the line, or, the defense knows you're going to pass, they're going to get pressure, and now all of a sudden he's got, 2 more yards per attempt. He goes from 2nd up to 11th. What would you rather have? Give me the high leverage success, Yeah,
it's not even close.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, before we get to some of these other categories, Judd, want to You tell the world about Livia and how to lose weight during the holiday season.
I will indeed, and I will tell you about the deal that is going on right now. Started this week, the holiday deal, save 50%. That's right, best offer of the year, save 50%, drop the weight. Start doing it now, because by the time football season is done, spring gets here, you're going to feel great. You're going to be in shape. You know what? Like right now, if you're on the couch and you're like, I don't feel like I can go work out because I'm carrying too much weight, Livia's going to put you on the right track to take that weight off, and then you can go to the health club. You can feel absolutely fantastic. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com, LIVEA.com, inside the state or out. So if you are a PD viewer in, I don't know, Florida, heck, in Seattle, dare I say, and you're saying, I'd like to drop some weight, Livia.com, LIVEA.com.
Also, Thursday marks the beginning of the football weekend, Deck. So Underdog is going to be popping for the next few days.
Absolutely. I saw a Vikings fan send me this slip that he already locked in. Some lines start to trickle in throughout the week on Underdog Fantasy, and he pointed out to me, and hopefully old Dex tweets can cash in this week as well, that Dalvin Cook, you should take the over on rushing yards and receiving yards, because the Cowboys have surrendered over 200 yards rushing the last few weeks. So why don't you take the over on Dalvin Cook? And even though you don't like to take, overs against Vikings defense, they are playing some backup QBs. CeeDee Lamb might be having a good day. You got to mix and match some of these options sometimes, Underdog Fantasy, which is the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. You can join Underdog Fantasy with promo code SCORE. It's SKOR. They will match your first deposit up to $100 on Underdog Fantasy. There's some great options too, Jed. I was actually dabbling into some NBA yesterday. There's NHL options. There's PGA options with Underdog Fantasy. So join with Underdog Fantasy, promo code SCORE, SKOR, and they'll match that first deposit up to $100.
Wild and the Under sounds very intriguing to me. Wild and the Unders.
Could do that as well.
That sounds like a great
Wild
50s doo-wop band.
Sounds like
too.
the Wonders. Sounds like the
also
Wonders, right? Yeah.
Yes. All right. Are we back here, by the way? Old Mac
I
and
think
Dak.
so.
Who's exhalating? I can no longer.
It's Phil. It's Phil.
Okay.
It's been me the
Sometimes
last
it's
couple
me.
days. We've had just like
Sometimes it's
starting
me.
with we had the most people on Ventline that we've ever had on Sunday, and it's it threw. Long story short, I think we found a glitch in the matrix here on the platform that we used, and so we have a plan B. This is the third time I've gone to the plan B this week. Hopefully this works.
Okay.
And we can continue forward. Keep me posted. Just text me, Dex, if this gets weird.
Ooh, it's looking good now.
Okay, category number 2 here. It's self-scout success. We like alliteration here on Purple Daily.
Scout success.
Self-scout success.
Say that 10 times fast.
Yes.
Self-scout success.
No,
I can't.
No, because you're going to end up saying something you don't really don't want to say, and then you're going to have to take it out.
Okay, this is from our friends at The Athletic. The Vikings offense before the bye week averaged 6 air yards per attempt on throws, which was 32nd in the NFL in terms of like how far are you throwing the ball in the air. After the bye week, it jumps up to 8.3 from 6 to 8.3, which is 11th in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So self-scout week, they said, we need to do a better job of getting the ball further down the field, okay? See that Justin Jefferson guy out there? Okay? Before the bye week, Justin Jefferson was targeted 4 times on passes that traveled 20 yards in the air.
Yep.
After the bye week, which is far fewer games, by the way, half the number of games, he goes from 4 targets to 9 targets in the air, 20 yards or more.
Kevin O'Connell.
We're seeing this is exactly what self-scouting week is made for, right? What do we need to do to be more explosive offensively?
Yes.
Chunk the ball further down the field.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yep. And here's what I love, too. They didn't pick something that was just a small problem, right? Like, because, I mean, football coaches, especially the old school ones, are like, everything that we're doing, some of it can be improved, but, fundamentally, I believe in what we're doing offensively. And this also goes to, and this is the absolute key to life, I love it, this goes back to last year's Detroit game, right? First half, Jefferson goes off. Second half, he has been taken away. Nothing that we can do. And all the filmsies were like, well, just look at the shell coverage. Filmsies know that you can't throw into that. But then here's the best part. The Vikings before the bye sort of fell into the same thing, right?
They did.
And so there was a conversation, and I mean, just think about this for a second. There was a conversation, because I think O'Connell worked hard to keep Justin's spirits up, so he wasn't a problem. But there was a conversation with Kirk where, like, Sunday's throw, crazy catch, was probably discussed to a certain point, which is we're going to have to trust the process of your throws and Justin's abilities. So, like, I don't just love the stats that you read because of, it's common sense. I love it because it's a pivot into doing something that you're probably not entirely comfortable doing, but if you're going to win, you have to. Just think about that for a second.
Yep. No, it is. It's like this uncomfortable deep end of the pool. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, we've mentioned this before on the show. You know, he wrote a book. I don't know. I think it was at the end of his time in Washington. There was a book about kind of his college career and his Washington career. And at the beginning of the book, he talks about an interception he threw against Notre Dame in college, and like right away, it kind of derailed them. And he kind of vowed, like, I'm never going to derail a game. I don't want to be the guy that makes a dumb mistake. So his ethos as a quarterback has been not how crazy, wild, and aggressive can I be, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, etc. Tom Brady kind of subscribes to the same ethos. It's a lot of like death by paper cuts throughout his career.
Right.
And Kirk tries to be a death by paper cuts guy, but he's like a diet version of Tom Brady in that regard.
When Kirk was asked about the Jefferson catch, I think it was about the throw yesterday, and Kirk went out of his way because now he's Kirk. Kirk O'Chains is gone, right? Until Sunday. Kirk started to talk about how he didn't like the throw. It should have been lower. It was too high. Okay, first of all, you're throwing it to Justin Jefferson. Yes, that ball was too high for probably Thielen. That ball was too high for Declan Goff. Yeah, I get all that.
I got a good vertical.
But the other thing with Kirk is that's the risk adverse Kirk. Because in my opinion, you can bring that ball down, but look at the defenders around Kirk. Like, you would have left yourself open to a lot of bad things there too. I mean, it was a desperation throw. But I just love how Kirk O'Chains dries up basically starting Monday through Saturday and goes back to risk adverse Kirk. But then Kirk O'Chains comes out and is like, we got to make this throw.
That's great. I love it. And Kirk O'Chains is being empowered by the little, the devil on his shoulder.
It's O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell saying, throw it. Yeah, that's right. I know you want to throw it to Hawkinson, but throw it further down the field. Throw it into quadruple coverage.
And we got a tweet from a guy
coward,
saying, stop with that. Kirk wouldn't have, you guys have gone too far. Kirk wouldn't have checked that ball down. Dude, did you watch Kirk since 18 through 21?
Dude.
There's
been times where he's literally thrown the ball away on third and fourth downs. Or Hail Mary at the end of the half. He'll just chuck it out of bounds.
The Irv Smith pass here to me this year was now it was not as dire, but that was a third and long.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's yes, I guess if you can't spot the difference, and we've been giving you all these numbers, the different numbers and stuff too. If you can't spot the difference, then what are you saying about Kevin O'Connell? If you're saying this is the same guy who's been there all the time. Oh, is it? So you could just have Mike Zimmer could just be the coach? Like what, there's clearly differences.
Yes.
Dig deep, and we try to bring those to you on Thursdays here. Okay. Category 3 is called discipline. The Vikings, and this is more of an all-encompassing one here, but I'll get to the offense. The Vikings are the 4th least penalized team in the NFL this season. On offense, they've played 9 games? They've only had 7 false start penalties all season.
They had 3 on the opening drive against the Bengals last year, right?
Yes.
Opening drive?
Opening drive, they had 3 last year. They have 7 false starts all year. Yes. They only have 5 offensive holding calls all year, and I think a couple of them are on tight ends. So, I mean, the offensive line has been called for holding 3 times, I think, all season.
And the Darisaw one was a rough one on Sunday.
Yep, it was brutal. So 12 combined false starts and offensive holding penalties. So basically one a game, a little more than 1 a game on average. Right. Last year, they averaged just under 3 per game. So you might not think but that's twice per game extra last year that they were killing a drive or putting themselves in a 1st and 17 after a holding call or something.
Yep.
And this is if we get Kevin O'Connell on again, and we had a great chat with him on Purple Daily at the beginning of the season. One of the first things I would just love to ask him is, This was how the Rams were last year too. The Rams didn't commit these penalties, and now the Vikings aren't committing these penalties. What is it about the communication in the huddle or the communication at practice? Is it a cadence thing? How do you not Ed Ingram's a rookie right guard? Wouldn't you expect him to have about 8 of these? Oli Udoh had a bunch of penalties last year. So what is it about the system and the communication that everyone's just on the same page with false starts, no one's jumping? And what is it about the coaching where no one's holding along the offensive line? It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, the false start thing to me certainly potentially could be coaching and practice as well. The holding thing's a combination. I would say the first one, I'm not entirely sure. The second one is probably just improvement of the line too, right? Like Christian Darrisaw, for the most part, doesn't hold because he pancakes your ass.
Yeah.
O'Neal, same thing. So I think that's probably a little bit to do with just the fact that this line is going to get more respect too, because they're now seen as a pretty stable unit. But yeah, there are some things that are going on here that we don't talk about because if they don't occur, they just get lost. Discipline's a huge one. Because if these guys were taking penalties, we'd be talking about it constantly because of coaching. And this is starting to get to be a little bit more of a problem, but it feels like they've done a really good job because there's some things you can't control. It's their health. It's keeping them fresh. Training camp was not hard. But you said to yourself, okay, you're going to play 17 games, right? And for the most part, concussions you can't control. So they're going to take place. But if you think about hamstrings, right? Like all the things that the Twins had, right? Look at the amount of guys. And yesterday, key example. So they come back from the Buffalo game, which is just a great, but just a physical, tough game. And on Wednesday, which is a huge installation day, they do a walkthrough.
They don't practice. Yep.
They do a walkthrough. The entire strategy going into the game in London against the Saints, go back and read those stories of how they approached it. They have done from a health standpoint, they have done a fantastic job. And because they have, we don't talk about it. But guess what? Zim would practice. And again, I don't mean to dump here, but it's just the difference.
It's true. He would ignore some of the data.
Exactly.
It wasn't that they didn't have the data. It was,
there were people who quit.
Practice.
There were people who quit because they were basically told, shut up. I mean, I will never forget coming off that Saints playoff win, Adam Thielen in practice almost ruptured his Achilles. You don't do that in a walkthrough. That's done in the course of a real hard practice. So there are a lot of things here that are transpiring that don't get talked about because if they don't happen, you don't think about them, that are absolutely a key to why this team is 8-1.
Yes. Yep. These are, you're right. It's some of the stuff it's the stuff that you don't spot. You just almost take it for granted.
Yes.
You don't really think about when you're in overtime against the Bills, you don't really think about the fact that, this team has only taken 7 false start penalties this season. That's interesting. That's one of the reasons why they're winning this game. It doesn't cross your mind really, but it's sometimes it's the things that don't happen that are reasons why you win. And then the fourth category here is called redemption, and quite simply, it is Garrett Bradbury. He is the 9th best center in the NFL this season, according to Pro Football Focus's grades. As always, he's been much better as a run blocker than a pass protector, but he's been passable as a pass protector.
Yep.
He's allowing on average about 2 pressures per game, which is, not perfect. But he has become at least an average center. He's no longer this liability that he was in the first 3 years. And that's part of the reason why Kirk is able to stand in there and make some big plays. I mean, we talked about it this week on the shows. Go watch that throw that Kirk made into double coverage, fading toward the front pylon to Justin Jefferson to set the Vikings up. And I think that was the overtime throw that he made. Garrett Bradbury blocked 2 different defensive linemen on a twist on that play to give Kirk the time he needed to chuck a ball down the field. So he's been clutch at times too with some of those pickups. So Garrett Bradbury deserves a ton of credit, maybe even more so. This coaching staff, whatever they've done to get more out of Bradbury, And it's a contract year. He also knows that if he wants to be a starting offensive lineman in this league going forward and make millions of dollars, he had to play well this year, or it's likely that his career would have gone down the toilet. So, redemption for Garrett Bradbury so far this year.
He's number 2 on my list of things I was most wrong about for the Vikings. Kirk is still 1 because I did not think he was capable of this. Bradbury is 2, though. And I mean, it also has to be scheme and coaching, right? Like they have created, he's done his job, but, clearly somebody got to him. And because he is playing, he has graduated from being, to use your term, a liability. I mean, this guy looked awful. And now he is passable to solid. So, yeah, if he's going to get paid, I don't think I'm the one paying him. So if I'm the Vikings and he's like, I am breaking the bank, I'm like, dude, you know what? We really appreciate you. Bye. But that being said, I thought that he would get steamrolled starting in week 1. And so far, he definitely has not, to his credit.
Yep. So there you go. That's your state of the offense, gentlemen. The 4 key categories for this week: Bizarro Kirk, self-scout success, discipline, and redemption. So some good stuff, some good trends, some clutch Kirk mixed in here. Declan, when you were speaking to aspiring journalism students last week, Judd and I unveiled a new weekly segment going forward here called Football. Let's Dive Entirely Too Deep into the NFC playoff picture entirely too early. So right now, the Vikings are tied with the Eagles with an 8-1 record, but the Eagles are still the number 1 seed because they beat the Vikings earlier this year in a head-to-head. So if the playoffs started today, the Vikings would be hosting the 7-seed San Francisco 49ers at US Bank Stadium on Super Wild Card Weekend. The Niners right now are just a half game above the Commanders for that 7 seed, but the Niners are also just a half game behind Seattle for their own division, which would bump them up to like the 3rd seed right now. So you got the Niners right now, but you're a half game away from the Seahawks coming to US Bank Stadium or the Commanders coming to US Bank Stadium. I will also mention a team that's only a game and a half back of the 7 seed is the Green Bay Packers at 4-6. That is not a team. I think the division's fine, but that is not a team to dismiss from claiming some low-hanging fruit at the bottom of the wild card standing. So what do you guys think of this right now? Vikings versus Niners, but also could be possibly Seahawks or Commanders a half game out.
Go ahead, Dex.
I don't fear San Francisco as much as I think a lot of people do. They're a very deep. They're a deep team, almost every position but quarterback. Obviously, CMC gives them a kind of a new wrinkle and layer, and maybe that's going to be something that unlocks something for them. And their defense is pretty good. I don't know if there's enough there from the quarterback and head coach that they're going to be able to beat the Vikings in US Bank Stadium. And I also think, I don't know why this is happening a little bit, but I feel like we're getting in a little bit of Minnesota cower of, okay, so we're trying to get a home game. All right, but I don't want to play that team. That team kind of scares me a little bit.
Bring them all, baby.
Yep.
I want the Eagles. I legitimately want the Eagles in the playoffs.
And that's my point, is just bring on. You're gonna be favored, most likely. You're gonna be at home. Embrace that stuff. You can't just, I really want to play the Atlanta Falcons because they could win the South and they're really stinky. Like, no. Like, you're gonna face tough competition in the playoffs. Embrace whoever that is.
I agree with that completely.
Amen. Yeah. Except Tom Brady.
San Francisco still scares me. That defense scares me. But
totally agree. Except for the Buccaneers, the Eagles, and San Francisco. Otherwise, and the Packers, I don't want them. But
hard to win 3 times.
The Cardinals, if they go on a run, bring them.
Purposely lose the second to last game so that you aren't. If you face the Packers, you're not trying to beat them 3 times because we all know how difficult it is to beat a team 3 times.
Yeah. So I do think I don't fear any of these teams. The Vikings are one of the best teams in the NFL, and I bring them all on. In terms of teams that could have a good chance of beating you, I guess, at US Bank Stadium, the 49ers would rank pretty high on that list. So, I still say that'd be a fun. There should be a revenge tour here. The teams that have beat you in the playoffs lately, right? The Niners smoked you on the road. The Eagles embarrassed you in 2017. So those are 2 teams you could check off. Maybe even the Seahawks. Maybe you get the Seahawks in the first round. A little Blair Walsh 27-yarder miss revenge game, and then you go through the Niners, go through the Eagles. Huh?
You know what? I'm not concerned about the opponent. I do want home field. So like that's the one thing that I will say that because if you can get that, to me, it's just so huge.
It is.
So
it
bring
will
them
make
all
a
on.
huge difference.
Just keep them here.
Just bring them all here.
Just bring them here.
Yeah. Or there, I guess, because if I say here, technically you become into Lumen Field for a game against Seattle. You don't want that.
12th man. 12th man is a pain in the ass.
Yeah. The Seahawks have the proverbial sort of figurative 12th man. The Bills have the literal 12th man on the field.
And nobody sees it.
That should be their thing. Like 5 times a game, we're going to find a creative way to play a snap on defense with 12 guys. Or
you know what you can call it? 3 high shell. Oh my God! There's a 3rd high shell. What's that? Not a telltale.
Crazy. Are there 6 safeties out there? What's happening?
Football.
It's amazing. All right.
It's a hologram.
It's time now for the weekly challenge. Judd versus the world here. Judd versus me or Declan in Random Viking of the Week. Presented by our friends in part at Federated. Federated Mutual Insurance Company, been around for over 100 years. They have all sorts of experience with a guiding hand to help navigate your business through risk management. All sorts of tools and resources. You can find a full list at federatedinsurance.com. What just happened?
Who's dying back there?
I think it was your end, Judd Zolgad. No one. I'm alone in a locked
Me too.
studio. I don't think it was Phil's beloved. I think it was yours, beloved.
I don't think so.
Or Stella.
It didn't sound like it was coming from my house. Oh my God, the call's
was
coming
a-
from
call's
inside
coming
the
from
house.
inside
Get
It's
out.
Juan. It's
Get out.
Juan.
Speaking
Juan's
of
in
risk
the house.
management.
Juan's been paid. Juan was outstanding. Best 160 I've spent.
You can find a full list of industries Federated works with and specializes in at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. And also our friends at Nutrisource, the official dog food of Mackie and Judd and Purple Daily. The Nutrisource chicken and rice food has been Maya's favorite for several months now. She snagged a couple of her favorite training treats this morning as we walked around the city as the sun rose up. It was great. I'm sure Stella is still holding strong there, Judd, at a much older age, thanks to Nutrisource.
Oh, yeah. Who's a good girl? I'll tell you right now. That's a good girl. Stella's a good girl. You know why Stella's a good girl?
That belly.
Because she's happy. And why is she happy? Well, the answer is right there, as Phil just said. The training rewards treats from our friends at Nutrisource, not to mention the fact that she had me up at, I believe it was 5:45 a.m. this morning, making sure that she got her breakfast because she loves it. She's a good girl because of Nutrisource.
Who's a good girl?
We'll just do the whole dog list the whole time.
NutrisourcePetFoods.com. NutrisourcePetFoods.com. All right, so Judd has a 38-23 lead all time here on Phil and old Dex. However, we have taken 4 of the last 5 against Judd. And Judd admitted last week that he feels like he needs a bye week or something.
Yep. You know what?
But the Random Viking train does not stop.
I need a walkthrough.
It does not.
You guys are forcing me to practice every week. I'm tiring out. It's a real problem.
There could be a case that maybe Judd is the questionnaire and it's me and Mackie going against each other.
Where's my Kevin O'Connell? That's what I need. I need my own Kevin O'Connell.
Well, let's see if Judd can rebound here. Or if so, this would be a 3-game winning streak, the first time since we correctly guessed Marquise Gray, Corey Chavis, and Pat Williams a few months ago. Dex. So
okay.
Let's see if we can do this. The other 3-game winning streak Dex had was Jarek McKinnon, John Carlson, Jermaine Wiggins. Oh, and then he had another one: Brock Lesnar, Jay Fiedler, Joe Webb.
That's feast. It's famine. You know, it's famine, feast.
And then Judd rolls off
Adrian
like
Peterson.
5 in a row sometimes. Yeah. All right, this Random Viking. So I'm going to give you guys clues. You can guess up to 3 times incorrectly before you're eliminated. You can ask me questions. I can refuse to answer if I choose. This Random Viking hails from Rocky River, Ohio.
Okay. Rocky River, Ohio. Okay.
This Random Viking played college football in the Big East.
The Big East.
So big.
UConn.
Rocky
UConn, the Big East.
He's talking about the old Big East. It's changed a lot.
They've been in the Big East.
Yeah, you are.
He did not play at UConn. I know that.
Yeah. I think I know where he played.
Okay. You want to guess?
Not yet. I only have 3 guesses. They're like timeouts. They're precious.
You think you know where he played? You already have like a
Well,
beat
the
on
Big
this?
East has certain football powers, and it had a lot of bad football teams.
I want to know.
You hate college football.
This random Viking of the week. Now I feel like Judd's on the scent here, so I'm gonna have to change up my clues. This random Viking of the week, after his career was over, spent time coaching with South Florida University, the Montreal Alouettes, and the Tampa Bay Storm of the AFL.
Wait. So South Florida,
Mm-hmm.
Montreal, and the last team is the.
The Tampa Bay Storm of the AFL.
Okay, is this the league that Culpepper was in with Sacramento?
I think so, yeah. I think it's now defunct.
It is.
This random Viking of the week played 4 career playoff games. This random Viking of the week played 156 career NFL games. Regular season.
Nice career.
This random Viking of the week was a 2-sport athlete in high school.
Mm-hmm.
The other sport he played was lacrosse.
Two-sport athlete in high school. South Florida, Montreal.
This random Viking of the week was once a second-team All-Pro.
Second team in the NFL, obviously.
Yeah.
Was
Yes.
it with the Vikings?
That's a good
Yes.
coach. Second team All Pro. That's damn.
This
pretty damn
random Viking of the week. Oh, I'm trying to figure out where to go with these clues. Judd's throwing me off.
good. Not enough.
I don't know that Judd actually had a beat on this, but I will say this random Viking of the week was a first-round draft pick. I'll give you that one. He's a first-round draft pick. Not going to tell you which team yet, though.
Okay.
Whether it was the Vikings or somebody else. This random Viking of the week, according to his Instagram, which is very active.
Still?
Yeah. Still very active.
Okay.
Looks like he's lost a considerable amount of weight to me anyways.
Okay.
Definitely has some shreds going on. And if you would have said, is this dude going to be shredded? I would have been like, I don't know. Maybe not that shredded. Or maybe he was shredded, but definitely looks like he's lost some weight. This random Viking of the week
Yeah.
was once pulled over, and he was pulled over for DUI once.
That's gonna get it.
For allegedly blowing a .31, which was more than 3 times. That's like 4 times
Right.
the legal limit.
He wasn't dead?
A
And he's still on Instagram?
.31. Unfortunately, had one of his kids in the car too, which was a problem. I don't want to make light of that situation. I think everything turned out okay.
Dude,
Looks like he's,
why is
doing
this starting
okay.
to click for me?
But
Who is this?
First round pick.
This is unfortunate that now it's starting to click because I kind of remember this story happening.
Yeah, so do
I will say that this happened after his career, but like you probably would have seen it. I'll give you the coaches.
Okay.
Mike Tice, Dennis Green, Steve Spagnuolo, Raheem Morris, and John Gruden.
And Gruden. Now the question is, so Raheem Morris, Gruden, Spags. It's a first round pick though?
Yeah.
And he played for who was his first coach?
Don't answer that, Chill.
Okay. I will honor Declan's request to not answer that right now.
Tice.
Oh God.
Green, Spags.
That's the timeline here. I know exactly the end. I don't.
But
He made he made the Pro Football Writers Association all-rookie team as well.
Josh Freeman. No, damn it. That wouldn't be it. He was a first-round pick. He's an idiot.
Well, the DWI has me. Okay, so yeah, because I don't think Josh Freeman ever got
he never played for
Dewey
Spags
that I recall,
Tyson,
and I feel like
guys.
this is the first time that
very
this
much
is
regret
now
that. Yes.
like potentially by guessing, libeling people, because I mean this
All right.
guy was a lout. His kid in the car.
I'm gonna try and speak Declan's language here. Maybe Judd's a little bit, but probably more Declan's language.
0.31.
If you were to meet this guy out,
0.31?
I don't know that he drinks anymore, but if you were to meet
Hope
this
not.
guy out, I'm guessing his favorite drink would be a Jameson Ginger.
Yeah, this is speaking Declan's language way more. Hold on here. So first round pick, but we don't know the team that he was a first round pick with. See, like we've established he played for Dennis Green and Mike Tice. And he's a first...
The Spags, by the way, I'll give you the thing on the Spags being his coach. It was off season only. He was put on injured reserve and never played that season. So Spags was only his like training camp coach.
Fire that music back up. Okay, so he was put on injured reserve.
He's a defensive player.
Okay, this helps. Lance Johnstone?
Oh, that's a good one. That might be it. Okay, all right.
He was teammates once with Lance Johnstone.
I'd like to say this right now. Lance, I apologize. You probably never got a Dewey. You probably never drove with your kid in the car.
The fact that you think Lance Johnstone got a DUI is the headline here. Okay.
This comes from a place of sorrow. Comes from a place of deep sorrow. I'm sorry, Lance Johnstone. I libeled you. I didn't mean to. It's part of the game.
I would say that so I'll give you another one here. I don't know that he likes horror movies, but if he did like horror movies for more than one reason, I would guess that Child's Play with Chucky would probably be his favorite for a couple reasons.
Damn, am I struggling?
One, because John Gruden was one of his coaches, but
Yeah.
that's what
obvious
I
reason.
thought of that one. Yeah.
He clearly ended his career with the Bucs because Raheem Morris coached the Bucs, Gruden coached.
Technically, he ended his career with Steve Spagnuolo and the Rams. Technically, but he never played a game for the Rams.
So he was signed by them.
They were gonna play him, but then he got hurt.
Round
and that was kind of a
so
wrap.
what was he a first? So he was a first round pick of the Vikings
Yes, he was.
because he played for Green.
Yes, he was.
He played for Dennis Green.
His career started red hot. And then he was fine the rest of his career, but like he was really good at the start of his career and red hot.
I got you.
Like
Oh God,
red
I think
hot.
this is gonna go over my head.
I know there's some people watching and listening that are just screaming at you guys right now.
Yeah, I am in a.
I would say that the player, I don't know that this is to be the case, but in many, many ways, it felt like he was a protege of John Randall.
Chris Hovan?
Oh, dang it!
There you go.
There it is.
Goes red hair. Okay.
How many red hints did I have to drop there in the last 5 minutes?
I was thinking Irish and red and.
I gave you Ginger, I gave you Chucky, and I gave you red hot. There too. Chris Hovan, the 25th overall
Goodbye,
pick by the
Minnesota.
Vikings.
That's what you should have said. He's the guy who waved before Tracy Clay when he was walking out of the locker room after his last year here. And the reporters were like, "Hey, Chris, can you talk?" He just kept walking. He said, "Goodbye, Minnesota."
Yep.
Yep. That was before Tracy Clay's. Goodbye,
Freeze
Minnesota.
my ass off. Freeze my ass off.
Okay, that was pathetic.
So Chris Hovan, there it is.
Boston
All right, well, congrats
College,
to Judd
right?
getting off the schneid. Boston College. You had the college. You were on the scent.
Boston College. No, I was thinking Syracuse.
Oh, okay.
But it could have been Pitt too. Like there's a few good football schools. Or I
So,
should
all
say
right, there it is.
competitive.
That's Random Viking of the Week here on Purple Daily,
Bye,
Daily
Minnesota.
Vikings Entertainment. Feedback Friday tomorrow. And don't forget Vikings Vent Line, the most fan-friendly interactive show in all of Minnesota sports after the Vikings-Cowboys finish up on Sunday. See ya.